The man sitting across from Oprah Winfrey, in the familiar warmth of Studio A, was both exactly who America expected Robin Williams to be, and someone entirely different. At 63, Robin's eyes still sparkled with the manic energy that had powered 4 decades of comedy genius. But there were shadows in those eyes that seemed to flicker between the laughs. Brief moments when the light dimmed just enough to reveal something deeper, something struggling beneath the surface of perpetual performance. It was July 2014, and Robin Williams had come to the Oprah Winfrey Show to promote his upcoming film Boulevard, a smaller, more introspective project that marked a departure from his usual comedic fare. The Harpo Studios buzzed with its usual pre-taping energy, but there was something special in the air today. The kind of electricity that comes when two masters of their craft sit down to really talk. Not just to promote or perform, but to connect in the way that only happens when cameras capture authentic human moments. Oprah sat in her signature chair, radiant in a deep sapphire blue silk blouse that caught the studio lights beautifully. After decades of conversations with everyone from presidents to pop stars, she had developed an almost supernatural ability to read the emotional temperature of a room, to sense when someone was performing and when they were simply being. And something about Robin today felt different. More present, but also more fragile. As if he was working harder than usual to maintain the brightness that had become his trademark. Robin wore a simple gray button-down shirt and dark jeans, his familiar uniform of casual elegance. His hands moved constantly as he spoke, gesturing, pantomiming, creating invisible worlds in the air between them. But Oprah noticed that between jokes, between impressions, between the rapid-fire wit that had made him a legend, there were these tiny pauses, moments where Robin seemed to retreat inward, where the performer stepped aside and revealed glimpses of the man beneath. Robin Williams, Oprah began with the warm authority that had made her America's most trusted interviewer. 35 years since Mork and Mindy. And you're still surprising us. Tell me about Boulevard. This is different from what we usually see from you. Robin's face lit up with genuine enthusiasm, the way it always did when he could talk about craft rather than celebrity. You know, Oprah, I've been the funny guy for so long, and don't get me wrong, I love making people laugh. There's nothing like that feeling when you hit a joke just right and the whole room explodes. It's like, he paused, his hands creating the shape of an explosion. It's like crack for performers, you know? That instant validation, that hit of pure joy. He leaned forward slightly, his voice taking on a more intimate quality. But Boulevard is about a man who's been performing his whole life, performing happiness, performing success, performing like everything's okay, and suddenly he has to face what's real underneath all that performance. Oprah's interviewer instincts immediately sharpened. That sounds personal. Robin laughed, but it was a different laugh, softer, more vulnerable. Everything I do is personal, Oprah. I mean, how can it not be? You take your pain, your joy, your fears, your dreams, and you turn them into something that hopefully makes other people feel less alone in the world. But Robin, Oprah pressed gently, there's something different about this role, isn't there? Something that required you to go deeper than usual. For just a moment, Robin's perpetual motion stopped. His hands stilled, his rapid-fire energy quieted, and in that silence, Oprah saw something that made her heart clench with recognition. The look of someone carrying weight they couldn't set down. You know, Robin said slowly, I've been thinking a lot lately about masks, not the literal kind, but the ones we all wear. The ones that let us function in the world, that let us be what other people need us to be. He picked up a water glass from the table beside him, turning it slowly in his hands. Sometimes I wonder what would happen if we just took them off. All of them, just for a moment. What do you think would happen? Robin was quiet for so long that the studio audience, accustomed to his constant energy, began to shift uncomfortably. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. I think people might see how scared we all are, how lonely, how much we need each other, and how afraid we are to admit it. The studio fell completely silent. This wasn't the Robin Williams America expected. The manic improviser, the rapid-fire joke machine, the man who could find humor in anything. This was someone else entirely. Someone more real, and somehow more fragile. Oprah leaned forward, her voice gentle but direct. "Robin, are you scared? Are you lonely?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Robin looked at her for a long moment, and Oprah could see him making a choice between the performer and the person, between the mask and the truth. "God, yes," he said finally. And the admission seemed to surprise him as much as it surprised the audience. I mean, not all the time. There are moments when I'm on stage, when I'm making people laugh, when I'm with my kids, where everything feels right, where the loneliness disappears. And I remember why I'm here." He set down the water glass, and his hands began moving again. But differently now, less manic, more contemplative. But then there are the other times. The quiet times. 3 in the morning when you can't sleep and you're staring at the ceiling wondering if anything you've done actually matters. If all the laughs, all the movies, all the awards, if any of it adds up to something real, or if you're just a very successful distraction from the fact that life is hard and people are struggling and the world is full of pain that no amount of comedy can fix. Oprah felt tears beginning to gather in her eyes. In 30 years of interviews, she had rarely heard someone articulate the existential weight of bringing joy to others with such raw honesty. "But Robin, you've brought so much happiness to people. Your work has helped people through difficult times, made them laugh when they needed it most. Surely that matters." Robin nodded vigorously, his energy returning slightly. "Oh, it does. It absolutely does. I know that intellectually, I get letters from people telling me that Good Morning Vietnam helped them through their divorce, or that Dead Poets Society inspired them to follow their dreams, or that Mrs. Doubtfire helped their kids laugh during their parents' separation." His voice grew stronger as he spoke, feeding off the memory of connection with his audience. "And in those moments, when I read those letters or meet those people, I feel like maybe I've done something worthwhile. Maybe all the pain and struggle and doubt was worth it if it helped someone else feel less alone." "But," Oprah prompted, sensing there was more. Robin's smile faded slightly. "But then I go home, and I'm still me. Still the guy who's been divorced twice, who's struggled with addiction, who sometimes can't figure out why he feels so empty when he's surrounded by people who love him." He paused, looking directly at Oprah with an intensity that was almost uncomfortable. "You know what the strangest part is? The loneliness hits hardest when I'm making people laugh. When I'm on stage and everyone's having a great time and I can feel their joy, that's when I feel most disconnected. Like I'm watching it all happen from outside. Like I'm not really there." The audience was completely silent now, hanging on every word from a man they thought they knew but were just now meeting for the first time. Oprah reached across and gently touched Robin's hand. "Robin, have you talked to anyone about feeling this way? A therapist? A counselor?" Robin laughed, but it was hollow, defensive. "Oh, Oprah, I've talked to everyone. Therapists, psychiatrists, spiritual advisors, life coaches, you name it. I'm like a professional patient at this point." He pulled his hand back and ran it through his hair, a gesture that somehow made him look younger and older at the same time. "The thing is, I understand my pain intellectually. I can analyze it, explain it, even make jokes about it. But understanding depression isn't the same as not having it. It's like knowing how quicksand works. The knowledge doesn't stop you from sinking." "Depression," Oprah repeated softly. "Is that what this is?" Robin looked at her with surprise, as if he hadn't realized he'd used the word. For a moment his performer's instinct kicked in, and he started to deflect with humor. "Well, he began, then stopped himself. Yeah, it is. I've been dealing with depression on and off for, God, most of my adult life. It comes in waves, Sometimes I can ride them out, sometimes they knock me under completely." He leaned back in his chair, suddenly looking exhausted. The weird thing is, comedy saved me, and comedy is killing me. Making people laugh is the thing that makes me feel most alive and most dead at the same time. When I'm funny, I matter. When I'm not funny, I disappear. But being funny all the time, being on all the time, it's like living your entire life holding your breath. Oprah was crying now, not bothering to hide her tears. Robin, what would it feel like to just breathe, to not have to be funny, to not have to perform, to just be whoever you are underneath all that? Robin considered the question seriously, his face cycling through a dozen different expressions as he worked through the thought. Terrifying, he said finally. Absolutely terrifying. Because what if there's nothing there? What if Robin Williams without the jokes is just nothing? What if the laughter is all there is, and without it, I'm just a sad old man who never learned how to be comfortable in his own skin? But you're not nothing, Oprah said firmly. You're a father, a friend, a human being who has struggled and survived and created beauty in the world. You're someone who has felt pain deeply enough to help other people recognize their own pain and laugh through it. Robin nodded, but his smile was unconvincing. I know you're right. I know that. But knowing something and feeling it are two very different things, aren't they? He stood up suddenly, his nervous energy returning. You know what the hardest part is? The gratitude guilt. I have everything anyone could want. Successful career, enough money to take care of my family, people who love me. And I feel guilty for being depressed when there are people in the world with real problems, real suffering. He began pacing slightly, his hands gesturing as he spoke. Like, who am I to be sad when I've been blessed with this incredible life? Who am I to complain about loneliness when millions of people would trade places with me in a heartbeat? Robin, Oprah interrupted gently. Depression doesn't care about your bank account, or your awards, or how many people love you. Mental illness doesn't discriminate based on success. I know that, Robin said quickly. I know that, rationally. But rationality and depression don't really speak the same language, do they? He sat back down, his energy depleted again. Sometimes I think the depression is just boredom. Like I've been performing the same show for so long that even I'm tired of it. The manic Robin, the funny Robin. The Robin who can turn any situation into a bit. He's exhausted. So what would it look like to retire him? To let him rest? Robin looked at her with something approaching panic. But then who would I be? How would I connect with people? How would I matter? The same way everyone else does, Oprah said softly. By being real. By being vulnerable. By letting people see your humanity instead of just your talent. But my humanity is messy, Robin protested. It's depressed and anxious, and sometimes really, really dark. People don't want to see that from me. They want me to make them feel better, not worse. Maybe, Oprah said. But maybe some people need to see that even Robin Williams, someone they see as endlessly joyful, struggles with the same things they do. Maybe your honesty about depression could help someone else feel less alone with theirs. Robin was quiet for a long moment, considering this. When he spoke again, his voice was thoughtful, careful. You know, there's this moment that happens sometimes when I'm performing, usually late in the set when I've been going for an hour or more and everyone's laughed until their sides hurt. There's this split second where I stop trying to be funny and I just am. Just present, just real. And sometimes, in that moment, I can feel this connection, not to the laughter, but to the people, to their humanity, to their pain, to their need to feel understood. He looked directly at Oprah, his eyes more focused than they'd been all afternoon. Those moments are what I live for, not the laughs, but the connection. The feeling that maybe, for just a second, we're all in this together. That maybe being human isn't something we have to do alone. And how often do you let yourself have those moments? Not often enough, Robin admitted. I'm too scared that if I stop performing, if I stop being the funny guy, people will leave. that they'll realize I'm just as confused and scared and lonely as they are, and they'll decide they don't need me anymore. Oprah leaned forward, her voice intense with compassion. Robin, what if they stayed? What if people loved you more for being real than they ever did for being perfect? Robin's eyes filled with tears, and for the first time in the interview, he made no attempt to deflect with humor. That would be, he paused, his voice breaking slightly. That would be everything. The silence that followed was profound, filled with the weight of a conversation that had moved far beyond publicity and into the realm of the sacred. The studio audience, who had come expecting comedy, found themselves witnessing something much more important. A master performer admitting that performance couldn't save him from the fundamental human need for genuine connection. Robin, Oprah said finally, what do you want people to know? If you could say anything to someone watching who might be struggling with their own darkness, what would it be? Robin wiped his eyes and took a deep breath, gathering himself. When he spoke, it was with the authority of someone who had lived in the depths and found his way back to the surface. I would tell them that they're not alone, that even the people who seem to have it all figured out, the people who make you laugh, who seem endlessly confident and happy, we're all just trying to figure it out as we go. We're all scared sometimes. We're all lonely sometimes. We're all wondering if we matter. He paused, his voice growing stronger. And I would tell them that the darkness isn't permanent. It feels permanent when you're in it, but it's not. There are people who love you even when you can't feel it. There are reasons to stay, even when you can't see them. There is help even when you're too proud or too scared to ask for it. Robin looked directly into the camera, speaking to millions of people he would never meet, but somehow understood completely. And I would tell them that being vulnerable isn't weakness. It's the only way to real connection, only way to real love, the only way to find out that you're not as alone as you think you are. As the interview concluded, Robin Williams stood and embraced Oprah with a ferocity that spoke of gratitude for being seen, really seen, perhaps for the first time in years. The man who had spent his life making others feel less alone had for 45 minutes allowed himself to feel less alone as well. The audience rose in spontaneous applause, but it wasn't the usual celebrity appreciation. It was recognition of something rare and precious, a public figure choosing authenticity over image, connection over performance, truth over comfort. 3 weeks later, the world lost Robin Williams. But in those final weeks, something had shifted. Friends and family would later say that he seemed different after the Oprah interview. Not cured, not suddenly happy, but somehow more present, more real. As if admitting his struggles publicly had given him permission to stop performing his happiness and start experiencing whatever genuine emotions remained. The interview became more than a conversation. It became a testament to the power of being seen, the necessity of honest communication about mental health, and the reminder that behind every public persona is a human being who needs connection, understanding, and love just like everyone else. Years later, Oprah would say that the Robin Williams interview taught her something profound about the relationship between talent and suffering, between the ability to bring joy to others and the struggle to find joy for oneself. It reminded her that the people who work hardest to make others feel better often need the most help feeling better themselves. Because sometimes the greatest gift we can give someone isn't laughter. It's the space to be real, to be seen, to be human in all their beautiful, broken complexity. And sometimes, just sometimes, that's enough to remind them that they matter, exactly as they are. The last laugh belonged not to the comedian, but to the man beneath the performance, the one who had finally found the courage to show his face to the world.